All right, welcome back, Chelsea fans, to another episode of the London is Blue podcast. That is right. We are back with our Chelsea women's season preview for the year 2025-2026. In case you were not aware, not paying attention, the Chelsea women had a undefeated domestic treble last season. Uh, that's pretty decent if you're counting at home, and of course, parlaying that, many of our players went to the Euros and won themselves a European championship as well. England repeat as champions, while leaving a pile of injuries in the process that we will have to deal with along the way. But if you are listening to this on Thursday, September 4th, just know the WSL season is back on Friday with an absolute barn burner at Stamford Bridge. Manchester City, old foes, return for the first game of the WSL season to play Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, which has become a fortress for us over the years. So, look, I'm joined by Ollie Glanville, friend of the pod. Ollie, how are you doing?
Good, man. I'm excited. Looking forward to City on Friday and Stamford Bridge under the lights, and let's run through it, man.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of doing the preparation for this show and writing the script. It does get you back into that mode again, and very, very excited about what's going to happen this season. Segment one, we're going to be talking about the summer that was, some transfer dealings, and maybe one more surprise in there for Chelsea. Section two, we're going to talk about the squad and major news that has kind of come out over the last few days. And then section three, we're going to do our not at all wrong, but almost always right predictions for what the season is going to look like. As you know, those never go poorly for anybody. So, Ollie, to step right in, let's talk about the transfer window that is almost closed. It will close as you are listening to this on Thursday. Sonia comes out and says, I'm satisfied with my squad. We've already made some signings. And I think, as you could see, this is after the Milan game. Some of the players have already brought a lot to the team. Transfer window is still open. And as Chelsea Football Club, we will always be observing what's happening and want to stay alert to opportunities. They're just always observing, Ollie. I mean, it's just what we do. We just observe. My job is to make sure we find the right balance between having depth and also having a bunch of healthy competition. I think with the strategy at this club, we are aligned on where we want to go. I think it's really important to have a mix of youth and experience in the squad because we need to build a squad ready to compete in 4 competitions. 4, that's right. So thoughts and feelings about Bon Pastor coming out and really just laying it down for everybody who thought maybe we were content with last year's treble.
Yeah, man, she's here to win. Like she said from the start, I'm not here to mess around. You're talking about someone who still, practices bicycle kicks on the training ground and gets involved in kick arounds with the team. And yeah, she's driven. Like winning is her job. It's not an aspiration. Like she comes in, she wins trophies, she continues winning trophies, she prospers. Like she's a serial winner who will continue to do that. I think the quotes for me are always funny because you're like, Myra's just limped off against Milan, and obviously that brings a certain frisson to the end of the transfer window. But yeah, it's like we know exactly what she's saying. She's expecting more incoming. She would have spoken to Paul Green, and yeah, could be a really exciting end to it.
Yeah, as Chelsea Football Club, we will always be observing what's happening and stay alert to opportunity. Look, there is if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. You know what I'm saying? I think that really does make an impact. Ollie, Chelsea have already done a decent amount of business this summer, and it's something to kind of pay attention to as we're entering the last day of the window. The ins, Mara Alber from Hoffenheim. She's a kind of versatile forward that can stretch anywhere across the front line. Very young, but already has some decent experience within a first team environment. Ellie Carpenter, with the swap deal with Lyon for Ashley Lawrence, comes over and will, I'm sure, be starting right back for most of the season. Already a tremendous amount of international experience. Definitely one to watch. Livia Peng, goalkeeper from Werder Bremen, over to play backup for one Hannah Hampton, who is the undisputed number one at Chelsea, despite Livia Pang taking the shirt, the number one shirt anyway. And then Becky Spencer continues her quest for trophies,
All
winning
she does is
three
win.
in
It's all she win. All she
3
does is win.
months. And by the way, no one looks like they're having a better time at this club than Becky Spencer. Like, she just looks like so happy to be out of Spurs. So that was really great. The outs, we have sent a couple on loan, and Akpan and Bartel, Southampton and Atletico Madrid, respectively, I should say. Mia Fischel, big transfer fee out. She went to Seattle Reign. Sophie Ingle left the club as a free agent. I think after last season, we all expected that to happen. Ashley Lawrence, the aforementioned swap deal with Lyon. Zachira Musovic, of course, went to Malmo, raising her very cute kid. And then Meili Zempam, defender from last season, young defender, to Brighton. And so this is kind of where things stand today. What do you make of the business that's been done so far, and how do you feel like Chelsea have reshaped the squad in more subtle ways maybe than last season?
Yeah, I think it's really fascinating. I think, Sonia has touched on the fact that she wanted to maybe adapt that mix slightly, right? Having a little more experience with the likes of Sam Kerr coming back, but also like some really exciting players coming in who may be slightly raw but have massive potential, like Mara Alba and Livia Peng, who we saw do brilliant work in the Euros, right, with Switzerland. So yeah, it's just great to have the squad kind of more filled out. But as we'll touch on a bit later, there is a little worry up front with the age of the players we maybe have to rely on right now. With Sam Kerr returning, obviously we hope she's fully healthy. But yeah, we knew that Sophie was going to be on her way. It's sad the way Mia's kind of Chelsea career turned out, but big fee. And then yeah, it's good to get those girls out on loan. And Millie's strange one, but yeah, I mean, when Naomi Girma comes in and the rest of the defenders come back healthy, it's a tough gig, man. You're not gonna get him. So
yeah, it probably makes sense on a lot of levels for her to go find playing time in that way. I do think when you think of the end of the transfer window, there might be a few more loans that are done between when we are talking today and what happens tomorrow when this episode gets released. But we all know that there's some fluctuation at the end of the window, as we just went through that on the men's side, and it was a crazy
always
last
observing,
day.
Nick.
Look, we're just observing. That's all. We're not doing anything really. Maybe we are though, because the big news of kind of the first part of the transfer window kind of closing before January is Chelsea have been tracking Alyssa Thompson for the better part of the summer. And in the last week or so, the news has really broken that they're making a pretty substantial effort to bring the young versatile forward into the squad. Alyssa Thompson is a 20-year-old U.S. women's national team international. She has 16 goals and 62 appearances in the NWSL for her hometown, Angel City FC. That team has been constructed in a kind of new way in the NWSL, some really high-profile ownership group. They are really trying to kind of remake what a team can look like in the NWSL and really take that league into something that is a little bit more profitable than it has been in the past. And so there's just a lot of factors here. Her sister plays for Angel City as well, and she's always kind of been home. And so this is a forward to me, Ollie, that is all about pace, all about dribbling, all about versatility. Three things that we know in the WSL are valuable commodities to have. And this would surely give Chelsea some different options in the way they construct a front three, front four, tens, second strikers, all this sort of stuff. So let me know what you think about Alyssa Thompson.
Yeah, for sure. I think there is that urgency now with Maya out of contention and having to get surgery, sadly. But that obviously means that Aggie has to step up and go central, right? Which means that limits our left side options to basically Marla Arbor, right? So it's tough for her to take the lead there just by herself for the whole season. And yeah, it means that Alyssa can come in and kind of hit the ground running the same way that she did in the NWSL. You know, she scored worldy like 11 minutes into her debut at 18 years old. Like she's an incredible talent. Reminds me a lot of Olivia Smith, actually in the WSL, who obviously viewers and listeners know is currently the record transfer in the WSL. I would expect if we get this one over the line in the next 24 hours, or probably as you're listening to this before it's come out, then I think it could top out, maybe as high as 2 million, maybe around that mark, which is a huge statement from the club. We'll see how that goes. At time of recording, the LA Times have just said that she's flown out to London in this afternoon. So pretty hopeful that things can get over the line. But yeah, she's a really clever player. Low center of gravity, really fast, has a great shot on her. Kind of out of nowhere, really, when you consider where she's generating it from. But she also has that great relationship with Nay Germer for the US women's national team, where she gets played in over the top a lot, and they have that kind of chemistry already, which we can hopefully cash in with her coming through the door. And yeah, it just, it's a sparkling kind of young front line that we have, full of potential. But I think Alyssa Thompson is kind of steps above that kind of potential. She has the ability to, I think, hit the ground running even at such a young age, and transferring cities, because she's got all these friends around her, right? With Kat Mack and Nay and others who can kind of assist her there, right, Nick?
Yeah, 100%. I don't think integration is going to be an issue at all for this player. I do think that the leagues are different, and so there will be some time to adapt. Naomi Girma in her most recent interviews for Chelsea and for other publications has kind of talked about the adaptation time and getting thrown in the middle of the season versus having a full preseason. If Alyssa gets brought in, there will be no preseason for her. She would have been playing football already this season and almost gone through a full NWSL season, I should say, before coming over to the WSL. So I think there's probably going to be a little bit of a cautious approach with her in terms of, what her, kind of load looks like in terms of utilization. But, I think there's ways to kind of get around that as well. And in particular, Chelsea's season does have like two distinct halves to it because of the winter break that they have. And I think that is a really, really useful bit of time to kind of catch up and recover as well. So yeah, there's a lot that could be said for that one. But Paul Green's been a busy man this summer. He's been giving quotes right and left. He's talking about how Mara is a considerable talent that we're looking forward to seeing grow and develop, that Ellie Carpenter has a ton of experience for someone her age and has won numerous titles, including the Champions League. She's an athletic fullback, loves to get forward. Does that remind you of anyone else that we know? Olivia Pang is a proactive and athletic goalkeeper who is comfortable with the ball at her feet, out of possession. She protects the space in behind. Very good in 1v1s. So there's just a lot in here that I think Chelsea have both bought for the future and are potentially buying for right now, and in the quest to win 4 trophies in a season and really do a historic bit. So anything else on the window that has gone? Any thoughts about the sales or anything like that?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Nick. I think, Alyssa Thompson, we all hope gets over the line, and that'll be a huge signing for us. I also think, Ellie Carpenter's a statement, and we all know what she can kind of bring down that side in competition with Lucy Bronze, or maybe take her spot there. But I also think the returnees are going to be huge for us, and not just Sam Kerr, who obviously we all hope gets back to anything like 100%, but also the likes of Kat Mack, who looked like they were peaking towards the end of last season, and in this preseason will look really bright. But the likes of Micah Hamano as well, and others who in the Euros showed a lot of brightness. And yeah, hopefully, JRK starts this season the same way she did last season as well. That would be a great touch of luck for us.
Yeah, well, look, that is the transfer window. Obviously, fingers crossed on Alyssa getting over the line. But when we come back from the ad break, we will break down Chelsea's squad. We will touch on some of the biggest news that has happened over the summer, and particularly over the last few days. And then we will get into our inevitably correct predictions in segment three. So thanks to the sponsors, and we'll be right back. Ollie, you kind of mentioned as we were kind of closing out segment one there that Chelsea's squad does have a fair amount of strength and depth to it, despite having a fair few sales this summer and things like that. So I'm just going to read through the position groups, and I think what I would like you to do is give a grade out of 10 to what you think these position groups are, as Chelsea are in a quest for 4 trophies, right? And one that we haven't ever won before. So that is the lens for which to look through the grades. So in goal, you obviously have England's number one hero of the Euros and a standout goalkeeper, Hannah Hampton, Olivia Pang, Becky Spencer, and then Femke Liefding is, I still believe, injured, and I'm not sure. Maybe she's a lone candidate, depending on how that all comes to pass. But what would you grade that goalkeeper group as you look toward what Chelsea want to do this year?
I mean, any group that contains Hannah Hampton in it, essentially best keeper in the world right now, is going to be way up there, right? I mean, there was talk in the women's game, in the men's game rather, that Edison should be considered a Premier League legend, but Hannah Hampton can actually save shots as well as use her feet. So I think that's the difference there, right? I mean, yeah, she's coming off a Euros winning tournament. She's a unbeaten treble winner, and obviously was a massive part of that. And now she has the competition of young Livia Peng coming in with her, and also someone to mentor her in Becky Spencer, who just keeps winning, Nick. So, I think this group is a 10 out of 10 for me.
Totally agree with that. I think that we're in good hands either way, right? And let's just hope that Hannah maybe gets over a little bit of the Champions League jitters that maybe gave her a little bit of trouble last year. Uh, let's talk about the center back group, because I am a believer as we look at this team and when we go through our kind of best 11s here in a second, that we are going to play a kind of 3 at the back, 3 center backs and 2 wing backs sort of set up for a majority of the season. I think this is what we started to show at the end of last season. I think will translate over. That center back room is still pretty damn stacked. Of course, captain Millie Bright back after her slight injury detour at the end of last season, got the knee right, and we'll talk about her in a second. Player of the season, Nathalie Bjorn is back. Kadisha Buchanan back from injury after missing out basically the entirety of last season, and was formerly the world's most expensive transfer, Naomi Girma, the Secretary of Defense, back there as well. What do you make of this center back group? Because I think it probably, for me, is the strongest that I've ever seen.
It's crazy, Nick. Like, you look at that group, and there's not a weakness among that. I mean, the only thing that we saw last season was that none of them were fit together at any given time, which was a huge issue. I just, hope for Keisha's sake, especially, that she comes into this season, relatively fit and ready to go, and just gets through it untroubled. And then, between Keisha, Nat, Millie, and Nay, you've got a ridiculous defense. Like, it's scary, but not for us. Like, it, if you pick 3, but 3 out of that 4 and run it against any forward line in world football, I would back them to come out on top, like 100%. So, yeah, again, that's a 10 out of 10 backline for me. Like, I maybe if we're running with 3, then there might be some questions about, maybe having 1 extra body in there, and then we go back to maybe can Brooke Aspin be in and around the squad for that. But yeah, I think that 4 is just very, very strong.
Or I mean, I think someone. It's hard to know who might be on loan at the end of the window there, but even someone like Valerie Berman potentially is there as an auxiliary player. But Chelsea also have depth from Neve Charles, who can play left center back if needed, and we've seen multiple times that Lucy Bronze, when healthy, can play in that position as well. And so the when healthy part is going to be a big thing there because both were injured for parts of last season. But this is kind of where it is. I think the right back position with Ellie Carpenter has been significantly upgraded. No offense to Ash Lawrence, who did play a pretty decent chunk of time for under Emma Hayes in the previous administration, but this is a real kind of superstar type right back who's in the prime of her career. Lucy Bronze obviously injured at this point from the Euros, played on a broken leg. No one did
As
a
you
check
do.
on that, apparently. We're just makes your blood boil. But right back, Lucy Bronze, Ellie Carpenter, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, we saw this as maybe a potential weaker position last year, just because how out of form Ash had been through large portions of the season, and Lucy, we know, is kind of great going forward, but has struggled at times defensively, and in kind of high profile moments in the Champions League as well. But yeah, Ellie coming in for Ash. I think it probably is an upgrade for me, just with the kind of solidity she offers and the ability she has going forward as well. And she will offer massive competition to Lucy in that space and may take the spot. So yeah, that's one to watch there. In terms of a score out of 10, yeah, again, it's like 8, 9, I'd say, 8.5 out of 10 probably for me.
If Lucy was healthy, it'd be a solid 9. I'll go 8 just because it's a little bit of unsure about that where that injury goes. But left back, we saw Sandy Baltimore come in and play left back for a lot of last season. Neve Charles then gets healthy towards the end, and they were able to both play at the same time. They played in different types of roles. They played in wingback roles. They played in traditional left back roles with a pivot, so that side could go and advance. Thoughts about where we are from a left back perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely adore both these players.
Hmm.
Sunday for me is one of the most fun players to watch in women's football right now. Just all action, all skill, all ability. It'll be really interesting to see, as you say, whether we do play wing backs or left backs going into the season, and maybe that does affect how we look at our kind of fullback options as wing back options or vice versa. But yeah, I'd love to see Sunday playing a bit further forward, and if that does come at wing back or whatever, then great. And Neve, yeah, she just offers you that solidity. Like she's never taken a penalty before, and she took one in the Euros final to win it, right? So she will always back herself. Incredibly intelligent, and yeah, just a great defender that's very reliable either side.
Yeah, I
So
think there's
yeah,
going to be.
sorry, I
I
was
think
going to
for
say
me,
for the
there's going to be a
score.
little bit. Yeah, go for it.
So for the score, I'd say yeah, like 7 out of 10 if it's just pure left backs. But in terms of the actual quality of the players, I'd go up to an 8.
Yeah, I think it's a 9 if they're wingbacks, and I think that is what is going to happen. And I think if they are wingbacks, there will be a fair amount of competition for that spot.
For sure.
I think that Neve is in a different space, probably mentally, than she was at the start of last season. I think that Sandy obviously does not want to give up that spot, but given some of the injuries and things we'll talk about in a second up front, they might play together more frequently than maybe we're anticipating. Right, Sandy advancing up the field a little bit more. So yeah, there's very interesting competition there. Midfield, I'm going to break up into two parts here because I think there are kind of two components to our midfield and the way that it might break down. Although if you're following along at home, that would mean two midfield spots for essentially 6 players for me. If we go this kind of wing backs and back three route, that looks like to me in central midfield, Cuthbert Walsh and Orion Jean Francois, who is I think we're both very, very excited about as a player, kind of a younger player. And then in the 8 and 10 role, Shuka Nuskin, Vika Kaptein, Micah Hamano, and I would even throw someone like Kat Mack in there because I think she's more of an 8-10 than she is like a pure striker, although we might see her play some striker early in the season as well, just given where we are. So what are your thoughts on the central midfield before we move to the 8s and 10s? Do you think that we have enough cover in the center of the park?
Yeah, I think watching Oriane come through and come on leaps and bounds, and even her performances in the Euros for France, right, where she was almost exclusively relied on in defensive midfield as a single pivot at times, which is kind of crazy when you consider how young she is. But she really performed, and she's just going to keep getting better. Like I think her ceiling is really really high. And then in this group you've got just great professionals and winners in terms of Kira Walsh and Erin Cuthbert, and obviously with Erin we know what we're going to get, just like world class ability, the odd mad goal from nowhere, and brilliant celebrations, and yeah, just that leadership that is really coming through since her kind of co-captaincy with Neve a couple of years ago. She's really kicking on and kind of mentoring and inspiring this younger midfield group. And I kind of feel that Kira is in a kind of similar space as well, with the likes of Nuskin around her, and even Vika Kaptein as was in there at parts of last season as well, right? So I think if we're thinking in terms of pure defensive midfielders, I think again it's right up there. You're talking, it's just a very good squad, to be honest, Nick. Like if we're honest about it, right? I think just in terms of the turnover and maybe not as many pure defensive midfielders, you maybe go for like 7.5. You worry about injuries potentially, but in terms of sheer talent of this group, it probably pushes it up to an 8 for me.
Yeah, I think the pending formation change helps the midfield quite a bit, actually, to not have to do as much, especially from a defensive standpoint, because the gaps will be smaller that they have to cover and things like that. So maybe not as concerned. I think the 8s and 10s group is really, really good, bordering on special. This might be my favorite group in the team to watch outside of center back this year, because I think they all have something different to them. Shuka Nuskin is different than Vika Kaptein, different than Micah Hamano, different than Kat Mack. This is a really, really interesting group that might be played as inside 10s in the scenario that I'm bringing up, but can also be played as part of a midfield 3, as a formal number 10, as wingers who are have more of a defensive tilt to their game. There's a lot that they can do.
Yeah, for sure. I think in this group especially, you've got a couple of players in here who, at the back end of last season, like I was referring to earlier, could really kick on this season and become key players for us. Like I think people have forgotten how good Micah can actually be in this squad, and just having her in and around this space, and maybe in a more kind of rotating dynamic setup, that she could really fit well there. But I also think Kat Mack, if she can stay fit, which has been an issue for her, could really be that knit player that we really need in and around the forward areas if she doesn't have to play up front. But yeah, in that kind of 8-10 spot, I can see her really, really flourishing, as she did in the kind of, last season at Lyon, with that kind of dynamic 10-11 kind of forward role, giving her that freedom. I think she can really come into her own this season and become like a real leader for us on the pitch.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess in terms of the score, it would be right up there for me. This group, as you say, is like, it's like a 9 for me at least.
Breaking news, they're very good. left wing, I have as Guro Wrighton and Lauren James right now. That could be Sandy, obviously moving up into that role, potentially, and Alyssa Thompson in that role. Things like that. We even saw Aggie play a little bit of left wing at the end of last season. This is maybe because of the injuries and kind of like the profile that Goro kind of played last season, maybe not as strong as we might hope at the start of the season, but we know that both of these players are just closers in what they do and have won us multiple leagues on their own in the last couple of seasons. So, what do you make out of this? Because there was rumors at the beginning of summer that this girl might go and play elsewhere. I think with the injuries up front, it would be hard to see her leaving at this point on deadline day. But what do you make of that left wing group?
Yeah, I mean it's tough right now as we've got it listed, right? I mean, you're literally just looking at Guru. I mean, hopefully Alyssa gets over the line, because then it becomes a really superb group again. And obviously with Lauren hopefully coming back in the second half of the season, or hopefully before, then that would be really great as well. But yeah, I think for Guru especially, it's a chance for her to cement in people's minds just how good a player she is, right? I mean, she's coming off of Euros where once again, like the Norway side was just baffling, and she was having to play left back at times, which is just obviously not her position. So as you say, if there's a change of system, I wouldn't be surprised to see her more like an inside left forward, for instance, or like a 10, dropping
Mhm.
deeper and playing that more creative outlet, because we know she has the passing ability. We know she can score from outside the box or inside the box. She's just a very intelligent player. So I think I would view this kind of group as a kind of opportunity to reestablish themselves this season, and hopefully they stay fit and hopefully are bolstered with Alyssa Thompson. So I guess as it stands right now with just Guru, it's probably one of our lowest scoring groups because we simply don't have the numbers. But if Alyssa comes in, then it's actually a very strong group if with all of them fit. So it's anywhere between 6 and 10.
Yeah, you also have to remember that Guro Wrighton was our second leading goal scorer last year after Aggie. And so despite not playing for a big chunk of the season, still was ultra productive in the minutes that she had. And so lots to consider there. Right wing is also very interesting because you have three initialed folks there in JRK and ABJ, or Johanna and Gannerid and Aggie Beaver Jones. There was a really hot start from JRK last season. There was a really hot finish from Aggie last season. And Aggie was, I think, for most people, the player of the season. It was ridiculous that she didn't make it into the team of the season. I just like all these awards are just nonsense, and I'm sure will only fuel her fire as she continues to grow. As we look toward this season, she's probably going to play everywhere up front, whether that's a part of a front three or it's part of a front four, or there was a moment last year where Aggie was named by Bon Pastor as like more of a number 10 than she was a striker, and that was kind of confusing because she was then played at striker and all this sort of stuff that you read. What do you make of this group in particular? I'll have her on the right wing just for the sake of this exercise.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously really hope that Yo-Yo comes into this season exactly the same as last season, right? We kind of need her to come in and come correct, right? I mean, she's just come off a goal and an assist against Milan, and Aggie had a hat trick against Milan as well. So they're both in pretty good nick right now. I mean, also, it's probably helpful for us that Aggie was ridiculously overlooked during the Euros as well. So she didn't actually get
Yeah.
that much game time and then got some time off. But I think Aggie is just getting better and better. Like she's
Yeah.
she's getting to a level where she's kind of undeniable in terms of being picked, whether the glorified popularity contests pick her or not. For team of the season or young player of the season or whatever. For me, she is arguably the best young talent England have right now. And, I think she's just going to keep getting better and keep adding skills to her arsenal as she keeps playing. But yeah, I think it's an interesting one because we are kind of understocked over this side. Obviously, Sondi could come in at right wing potentially and play that kind of inverted right wing, where she's shown she can score from as well. But essentially, we are relying on JRK quite heavily in this role. And we kind of have to hope that she hits the ground running like she did at the beginning of last season. So for me, it's like a 7 out of 10.
And I do think if Alyssa Thompson does come to Chelsea, the right wing is where I think she will probably fit most effortlessly, because I do think Sondi's probably more on the left for me than on the right. But obviously we'll see. I think Bombastor probably has a little bit more of a clue than I do on that front.
Great choice to have.
Yeah, it'd be amazing. The center forward group is super, super interesting, and it probably difficult to grade because we just learned today, as we're recording, that Myra tore her hamstring, and of course that is a multi-month injury recovery. She has undergone surgery for this. They're not messing around with it, as they have with some of the men's players on the hamstrings over the last couple of seasons. So she is out, and she's probably out until 2026. And even then, coming back from a significant injury like this is no easy feat. And so Myra might not be a factor for some time this season, just in terms of how well she recovers and how quickly she gets back up to speed within the group and can adapt and all these sorts of things. So really right now it is Sam Kerr coming back from a 16-month injury absence. Might even be more by the time she's like finally up and firing. And you have Albert, who just came, Mara Albert from Hoffenheim, who's a young player. It does worry you a little bit, and it probably moves Aggie into that striker role for the foreseeable future. Maybe even Cat Mac or someone like that who can be a versatile player up there as well. What are your thoughts about no Myra, injury, return for Sam, and maybe a young player like Albert?
Yeah, it's just gutting the Myra news. Like as soon as she kind of pulled up against Milan, a lot of us feared the worst, and then I think Sonia was in the moment trying to pull an Emma Hayes and saying, oh, she was fine afterwards. It's like that's not how injuries like that work. It's really unfortunate because she was a massive part of Colombia's kind of run in the cup all the way to the final, and unfortunately missed out to Brazil, but she wasn't on the pitch when they lost on penalties, so it wasn't her fault. But yeah, I think she was just on such a hot streak, and coming into this season you thought she was going to kick on again. So to go down like that so close to the start of the season is really gutting, especially given that it looked like her form was going to really nicely dovetail with Sam Kerr coming back and there wouldn't be as much pressure on her. But look, Aggie was playing 9, not too long ago, and scored that hat trick, as I said, against Milan. So I think you have to look at this group as an opportunity for someone to take, right? Whether it's the likes of Mara Alba coming in and kind of staking a claim, or what's more likely is Aggie is going to play there like full time until Sam is anywhere near fit. So I think there are some huge unknowns in this group right now. It's looking very unlikely that Myra will be part of the squad, until at least like January. And then for Sam, we don't really know, like no one really knows, or they're not really telling us how close she is. So, I mean, if she makes the bench on Friday, that would be a huge plus, because I think that's more than a lot of us expect right now. But yeah, I think right now there's a lot on Aggie's shoulders. And whilst I absolutely back her 100% to, be able to pull off that role, it doesn't necessarily come to her as naturally as like an 11 role or just in behind another striker. The same way Cat Mac, I think, really flourishes with players and the game in front of her. So yeah, I think it's a kind of big unknown here. That's the biggest question mark in the squad for me, to see if the likes of Aggie, Omara, or Sam returning can actually, really show that they've got the goals in them right now. And there's not really not really a harder start than playing City. So it's kind of an interesting introduction to the season.
Yeah, I think for Aggie, the transition to being a match winner is gonna take its full kind of metamorphosis this season. I think she's going to go through some ups and some downs, but ultimately she is such a competitor and so willing to work for the team that I don't see any possibility but her coming out and having an even better season than last. One, I think she'll have the opportunities, which weren't always the case last season. And two, I think she's just played herself into being a starter for Chelsea Football Club, which is we just went through this list: Lauren James and Guro Wrighton and Kat Mack and all these players. Sam Kerr is on this list. If Myra wasn't hurt, like there's some bona fide, incredible players within. I could have just named a Ballon d'Or list right there. And she's gonna play. Like that's how good she is, and I think
Yep.
that's something that we have to, be cognizant of. And look, Sonia, I'm gonna kind of transition here into the big stories of this, but Sonia supports this as well. And she said to the Chelsea website, I'm really proud of Aggie's performances and what she's producing with us. She was able to score and to assist and to help the team get results. I'm glad that she's able to focus on herself. This is something we've been able to talk about together. And I think this is like a little bit more of like the personal side of coaching, which is just like how you deal with growth and expectations and all these sorts of things that happen. And then she says she's doing really well again. She's ready to start the new campaign. It's an important year for her. It's a really good note. It's an important year for her. She played a lot of minutes with us last year, had good performances, scored a lot of goals. So I hope she can continue in the same way. As
Yeah,
as
for
do we
sure.
all, Sonia. As do we all. Other news, of course, Sam Kerr is back and ready to fire this season. 16 months. So again, I think we're gonna, if you paid attention to Kat Mack's injury progression when she was finally ready to come back, it was kind of little by little by little, and that's what I would expect with Sam Kerr as well. She does have an amazing new Nike Total 90 ad out. So if you haven't watched that, it's one of my favorites ever. It's I think just as good as being skinned by Cole Palmer. It's that sort of vibe. Nike's really on their A game right now with these. But I think you could tell in her quotes because Sam doesn't talk a lot. She's not the star. She doesn't need to be the center of attention. She doesn't need to be the one cheerleading and giving quotes. She said during an injury, you're alone a lot. It's good to be back with the girls. Just do some training sessions rather than solitary rehab sessions. Being in a camp like this helps you get to know all the new faces. It's nice to be back on the pitch, and I'm excited to being back out there, scoring goals and having fun, getting back to normal and being with the team. That to me, Ollie, I imagine for someone within the context of the group who is a leader and who is definitely an extrovert, the solitary piece of this recovery and all the court nonsense and having a kid in the middle of all this transition had to just be an incredibly difficult 16 months. And I think I got the sense from those interviews that she is just like so happy to be back on a football pitch.
Yeah, it's normal again, right? I think that's the biggest thing is it's all about normalizing that effort, normalizing, being in training, normalizing, putting in all that effort every single day and trusting your body again in an intense environment with elite footballers. I mean, as you say, it's a long, long time out. And I think it's a great example to use Kat Mack because we saw how brilliant she was before the injury. We know Sam Kerr is undeniably brilliant, and it's all about getting her back in the best possible way. But also, as you say, like that, the mental side of it, right? She's got to trust her body, she's got to, if there is a 50-50, believe she can push it past a player and run onto it, and trust that, her body won't give out. Like that's a huge part of this. Everyone says it's like 30% physical, 70% mental, right? Football. So, and for someone who's coming back from a major recovery and all the kind of issues she's faced off the pitch, but also massive life changes as well, as you cited. I mean, yeah, that kind of mental side for me is just crucial for Sam. But she's in amongst great friends as well, like Millie, Erin, etc. They're all there with her. And now she's got Eddie Carpenter from the national team as well to kind of to bounce off as well. So yeah, I think it's a great environment for her to come back into. It's a group of winners that she's very accustomed to. And actually, maybe with the emergence of the likes of Aggie, the pressure is slightly off her. I think maybe it would have been much less so if Myra was still fit. But yeah, I think Aggie will have to kind of take more of the burden running into the new season, but then Sam can hopefully balance it out by like New Year, hopefully. So yeah, I think all of us just want Sam to get back to anywhere near like 100% fitness and happy in her body, because we know if she's there, she will score goals, she will win us games, and she will absolutely love giving it to the opposition fans.
Yeah, I'm just kind of imagining that first goal back and what that will feel like, and what that will feel like for her, to really, really put in a shift there. And I imagine it'll be a huge weight off her shoulders, and just psychologically very healthy thing for her to go do. So yeah, but like you said, if it's second half of the year when she's really kind of feeling herself and getting back into it, we call that winning time around here for Chelsea Football Club, and there's no one you'd rather have starting as a center forward in world football than Sam Kerr on her day. So that would be a very nice little touch to have.
Running
someone
Chelsea,
else,
baby.
Yeah, running Chelsea. Someone else that you did mention as part of the leadership group, of course, is Captain Millie Bright, who did a brave thing over the summer. She said, "I'm not right. I'm not physically or mentally right to play in the Euros. I'm gonna take it off. I'm gonna get my knee sorted. I'm gonna, make sure that I'm ready to go for this new season." And to me, I have huge respect for people in leadership who prove what good examples should be to other people. And I think there's a lot of like consternation about what that would mean for England and all this sort of stuff. Ends up working out, of course, as England win the Euros, but you could tell that there was a little bit of that kind of weight lifted off her shoulders as well. She said the summer was definitely needed. Decided to get my knee sorted and the surgery done. It was important for me to mentally accept that I wasn't where I needed to be, and I wanted to go into the season in a good place mentally and physically. She did mention what was required for Chelsea to do to meet all of our targets, as we all know them to be. Intensity. I think playing at a higher intensity means we have better opportunity in winning in the biggest games against the best opponents. If we are able to consistently play with a high level of intensity and do it better than any other team, then we will win. Thoughts?
Yeah, what she said. I mean, to be honest,
Yeah.
I think she's kind of citing the Barca game there, right? I think that's pretty clear. She's saying that she wasn't really 100% in those games, and she feels like it cost the team. I mean, I feel like Nay would probably feel pretty similar as well. Like it just came at a kind of bad time for us, and we got caught cold there. But yeah, I think it's just so healthy to be able to step back in the prime of your career and say, look, I know I'm going to be a keystone for this Euros winning side, but I know that my health is more important. And I know that, I will have other opportunities to do this again. So, I think we did see in the Euros that without her, England did really suffer in the middle of defence, and it took a lot of bailing out from the, the likes of Jess Carter, much to the chagrin of online fandom, to help us get over the line, right? In the final, because other centre backs kind of didn't lead in the same way that Millie would do during the tournament, and you know, I think we all know that Millie would have probably made it slightly easier going forward, but we did win anyway. And I think the opposite side is kind of reflected in those that did go, right? We've seen the
Yeah.
effect of those that did go and were clearly injured, whether it be a broken tibia or, you know, a swollen or her ankle running into the tournament. Serena Wiegmann does not care really about your welfare, particularly. She just wants to
Nope.
win. And that, you know, it's been very effective for her. But we knew as soon as LJ stepped on the pitch, she's too good to leave out. And that meant that she was going to suffer with her injury. And now we know, obviously, Lucy Bronze played on one leg for most of the tournament as well. So, yeah, I think if Millie had gone, we would not be seeing Millie for the first half of the season. I think that's completely, like, I don't think that's up for discussion. So I think Millie saw that and made a calculated decision about making sure she was right, making sure she was ready mentally as well. Because, you know, the WSL is getting stronger. We'll come to it later, but, you know, she needs to be fully there. She is a massive leader for us, even with Germa coming in. We know that she is a keystone for this team and the kind of reference for us. And she will be throughout this season.
Definitely. Last one before we get to our predictions is Kat Mack. And I think a player that both of us feel is poised to have a breakout season in a way that maybe she hasn't quite been able to yet. The end of last season, she closes out with the FA Cup and does look physically different than her first little bit at Chelsea. She looks ready to, you know, overcome the mental and physical part of what was an extended 22-month injury cycle that she went through to get back to this point. She did have 13 goal contributions last year, which is, you know, no slouch. And when she decides to put in an angled ball, or if she decides to hit it, it's as pure as it comes. Ollie, she is a supreme talent. Not a number 9, maybe not quite a number 10. One of those kind of halfways, maybe a 9.5 type, but can add a lot of versatility to a team that's trying to break down low blocks and do a lot of different things. She signed a major deal with Nike over the summer. Nike, of course, kit sponsor for Chelsea as well, and is showing, I think, a little bit more of a sparkling personality that we know that she has now that she's kind of back and really in the mix of it. Just quickly talk about Kat Mack, because I don't know if people have considered fully what she is capable of and what she will add to this team this year.
Yeah, you know, I think since we bought her from Lyon, really, we've not seen like her brilliant shine apart from in little moments. And I think that's really unfortunate because we just know how brilliant she can be. I think she has a completely unique mix of abilities in this squad, you know, despite the, you know, all the world-class players we have. She is kind of truly unique in the way she can knit the play together, in the way she can create with her world-class delivery, as you were saying before, her physicality, her intelligence and kind of leadership. I think she's kind of off the pitch. She's emerged as this kind of leader and reference in the group as well, especially as she's coming back to full fitness. You know, there's been some positive life changes off the pitch for her as well, not just the Nike deal, but I think she feels really happy here as well, and that's kind of coming through as well. The weight of the shirt doesn't seem to be there with her anymore. It feels like she's really excited every time she's coming back on the pitch, and with the level of talent you're talking about, for her to then be a reference for the likes of Aggie or Mara Alba or whoever comes in, and Alyssa Thompson, who she could take under her wing, like that's a really exciting place to be as Chelsea Football Club. And yeah, I just want her to go through a season much like Keisha Buchanan and just get through it, right? End to end. Let's see a consistent season of Kat Macario, because I think it would be really, really special to see how she builds through the season, because she's just a special player. She's a skeleton key, right? She can unlock Any
Mhm.
defense you put in front of her, she can play the through ball. She can play the ball over the top. She can go herself. She can shoot from outside the box. Like, you're talking about a very, very special player. And to
Set
have
piece
that moment,
delivery.
for
Yeah, I
sure,
mean,
like
all of it.
and to have that moment in the Wembley Cup final, you could see how much it meant to her as well. And it was almost like, this is the moment I'm a Chelsea player, right? So coming into this season, I think is her chance to really kick on. And yeah, whether it's a change of system or not, I just want to see more Cat Mac more often, more consistently.
Amen. Okay. Let's get into predictions here, because this is fun and it's the season preview, so we can do whatever the hell we want. Just for last season, because we're going to talk about our standings in the WSL first. Chelsea finished first, of course, as you know, six straight titles, 60 points, 12 a casual 12 above Arsenal in second on 48. United on 44 points in third place. City, 43 points in fourth place. Brighton, Villa, Liverpool, Everton, West Ham, Leicester City, Tottenham, and Palace get relegated to the championship. Where are we finishing this year, Ollie?
Well, we're in the top two, and we're not second. Nick is what I'd say. Um, no, you can't take this for granted because it's just
No.
outright domination, and we've earned it every single season, despite what any detractors might tell you. Like 12 points last season was, ridiculous when you consider that we were apparently terrible every game and scraping it, right? So, I think there's maybe some reality checks to be had from the chasing pack, but I also think there's some really interesting emerging teams, we'll say, who may kind of disturb the chasing pack as well, that we'll come on to.
Yeah, and just in case you were wondering, that was 56 goals for in a team that wasn't always the most fluid goal scoring team, and only 13 given up the entire season. Casual, don't worry about it. Best defense in the league. Only United were in the teens, and they finished in third because they couldn't score any goals. They only scored 41. All right. So yeah, I agree. I think we're going to finish it first. I think it's going to be closer. I think it might be another nail biter finish this season because I do think that Arsenal and City and you know maybe even one of the mid pack do advance up and take points this season that they didn't last year. But when you look at the depth of our squad, it's going to be one of those years. I think. How many total points do you think that we finish with in first, Ollie?
Well, let's try and break the record, shall we, Nick? So whatever that is, plus one. I think I think that's the only expectation to go into a women's Super League with, because that's what Sonia's aiming for. You know, the very base level is consistency and achieving the same points total, but they will aim for more. And if we are to say that some of the doubters about last season in our unbeaten treble winning season were right, then we can say that maybe we didn't score as many goals as we'd like to. And hopefully, with the forward line being replenished, with those coming back or those coming in, hopefully we can see us push into the 60s, or maybe, who knows, up to 70 goals. Maybe that's a target that our forward group wants to aim for.
Man, yeah, I think might be less total points because I do predict a bit of a tighter title race, but I do think 56 probably gets it done by the end of it. I agree that I think we're going to score more goals this year. I think the defense will be just as good as it was last year, maybe even better, depending on the setup and how we control games. And in year two of Bon Pastor versus year one, look, I think there are some tough matchups in here, and we can move on to our domestic banana peel. But Arsenal better than they were last year. London City Lionesses, who you mentioned, come into this division with some real ambition, and Michelle Kang behind them, who is kind of a savant for all things women's sports. United and City doing swap deals right before the transfer window closes. Who's our domestic banana peel in this group?
I mean, yeah, it is hard to look past Arsenal given how they ended last season. You know, in terms of the Champions League, but I think I am really interested to see how Michelle Kang's project comes into the league. They clearly have very ambitious ambitions to come into the league. They clearly see that niche where, you know, Arsenal, United, and City maybe didn't dominate in the way they wanted to last season against some of the smaller teams. And you know, Gareth Taylor's taken over at Liverpool. We've seen other changes as well, like Leicester City. So it will be really interesting to see who starts the season fast because, you know, Arsenal have made their statement with Olivia Smith. We can make our statement with Alyssa Thompson. And as you say, there's that very strange deal that doesn't really help anyone with Grace Clinton and Jess Park between the Manchester clubs. But yeah, I think it will be really interesting to see how the Lionesses, the London City Lionesses, start in the WSL because they could be a real disruptor underneath us. And ultimately, I think that may help us potentially if there are less consistent results underneath us, as it kind of did last season. So yeah, we'll see. It's a lot of unknowns.
Yeah, I'm looking at this and I just like United for whatever reason give us a relatively tough time. I'm curious about City because if they're healthy, they're very interesting as a team. They were very injured for most of last season. They haven't done a ton in the transfer window either. And so it's very interesting to see kind of how they show up on Friday and how they're prepared for this season. But one of the Manchester clubs, I think, is probably the best suited. I think that we're going to play against Arsenal in a real statementy sort of way this season. I think there's going to be a real chip on the shoulder after they won the Champions League. That is the ambition for our club this season, and so I'm going to go with one of the Manchester clubs. Uh, let's get to the fun part. How will Chelsea fare in both domestic cups and the Champions League, Ollie?
We've got to win it, Nick. We've got to win it at some point. Like, you know, I think, you know, Shurkanuskan mentioned it in her interview this week. Like the players know that the Champions League is the one to win. It's you know, it's the kind of white whale for us right now, and we really need to just kind of get on over the line mentally in that competition. And I think, you know, have a draw that doesn't include Barcelona. That would be nice. You know, who knows? Maybe 2026 is that year, Nick.
Old foes back to haunt. I mean, I think as the Champions League goes for me, this is one opportunity. Chelsea were very poor in the semifinals of that competition. Didn't really play great in the knockout rounds as a whole. I mean, obviously had the great comeback against City. The matches against Barcelona were an embarrassment. I feel like that is the fuel for this season's fire. And I do think that this team will go to a Champions League final and win it this season. I think we will get over the hump if and only if we have some better luck on the health front, because a banged up Chelsea is going to have a tough time against the physicality, speed, and discipline of a Barcelona. I'm just bookmarking that as the semifinal because that's what it is, and that's how basically this whole thing works. The charade of UEFA. So I imagine that if we are healthy and Barcelona's kind of going through their own stuff in this offseason where they've had to offload players and not extend contracts due to the men's team being a completely inept organization, that this is one season where we might be able to kind of break through that ceiling and get to the promised land. And so I'm going to have faith that we do it and really believe in that. I think that we'll be in the semifinals of the Subway Cup, and that might be as far as we go. And I think that we'll be in the FA Cup and win it again at Wembley, because I do think there's this team really values Wembley and winning at Wembley. And I think if you get to Wembley, all bets are off. Chelsea will show up and play a really great final. So, look, 3 out of 4 ain't bad, but one of them is the one that we really want, and that's the one I think is going to take a lot of priority this season.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's do player and young player of the season, Ollie, because I think this is going to be really interesting to see where we go. Who is your player of the season?
Right now, I can't look past Catmac, and given everything I said in terms of the momentum coming into the season, I'm going to will it to happen. I think if she is healthy the whole season, she will undoubtedly be the best player in the WSL this season. Just given that we know that others in the team who are also world class maybe won't be as healthy. I'm hoping that if she hits the ground running from the start, that she will just carry it through to the end of the season, and she'll be a player that is essentially unstoppable. So I am going all out for Catmac as player of the season. In terms of young player of the season, it's kind of a toss up for me. You can't really look past Aggie in terms of what she brings, but I do really like the idea of an emerging Oriane Jean-Francois just making defensive midfield position her own. So for me, I think I'll opt for that. So I'll go Catmac player of the season and Oriane Jean-Francois as young player.
Yeah, I was between Catmac and Naomi Girma for player of the season. I think I will just take the opposite, just so that we're not just the same thing over and over. I will take Naomi Girma. I think the defense will prove to be the thing that helps us to break through, and she will be a huge component in that. Had a full summer with the team, had a half a season last year, is fit and firing, and is a leader. So I will take her as player of the season. Oriane Jean-Francois is a great shout as young player of the season. That kind of bastard, you took one of my good options there. Let's throw in Alyssa Thompson as young player of the season. 20 years old, qualifies for that award. I do think that she's potentially really, really special, so why not? All right, next award up, or prediction up, Chelsea's Golden Boot, leader in assists for the league. Last season, the Golden Boot was Aggie. Who is your Golden Boot? Who leads in assists? Are they the same
Aggie.
person?
Yeah, I mean, I've gone with Catmac as player of the season, right? But for me, I would go Aggie Golden Boot again, just on the basis that she's going to start majority of our games, especially early season. And yeah, I think it has to be Catmac assist leader. Just, she's going to take set pieces. She has that brilliant delivery on her, and she's got a through ball on her as well. So yeah, I think for me, it's Aggie and Catmac, and I really want to see them work on that kind of chemistry, that timing of the run, that timing of the pass, because I think that would be really special, even against packed defenses. It's kind of impossible to stop a really fast player who's tall and physical breaking in over the top with a player who can pick them out. So yeah, for me, I want to see that goal, Aggie, Beaver Jones, assist, Catmac, infinitely repeated throughout this season.
I'll tell you something. I think it's going to be a race for the Golden Boot between Sam Kerr and Aggie Beaver Jones. I think that Sam Kerr will just nip it at the end, just snip it. And I think we've seen Sam go on these runs where she's scoring 2 goals, 1 goal, 3 goals, 2 goals. Like, she really gets going. And I think in the Champions League in particular, she's going to really, really want that this year. So I'm going Sam Kerr and Catmac for assists. I totally agree with that. Sneaky one could be on the assists is Sondi. I think she's going to have some opportunities to get into the box, and we saw some good cutbacks from her last year that could tee up some players quite nicely. So I'm going to throw that in there. Comeback player of the year, probably pretty obvious on this one. If we're on the same page, I think we're probably looking Sam Kerr on that one. Is that accurate?
I think it's one Samantha Maker for me, Nick.
Yep. Okay, full name. Fair enough. Look, the other one that I'm kind of thinking about too is what happens with Lauren James coming back from injury and what sort of impact could she potentially have as we get into really like February through May, winning time, running Chelsea sort of vibes. On her day, she's the best player that we have. And it's really important, I think, for her to get over this kind of injury bug that she's had over the last couple of seasons. And hopefully this is an opportunity for her to, like her brother, like reset the body, have a different program to come back to, and really start getting back to what she does best, because she's not refereed the same as any other player. She is not given the protection of someone who's an absolute unequivocal superstar. And if she's able to help Chelsea get over the hump, then I'd throw her in for consideration just for something a little different. The Master of the Dark Arts, a category that I personally love. I think you love as well. And Chelsea have a fair few contenders for this crown. Who is yours, Ollie, and why?
I think Hannah Hampton might just take it because I think we all know where I'll go with this. She's going to chuck a few bottles in the crowd and dive on the ball late in games and smile at the away fans or home fans, depending on which opposition ground you're at. I think you can't look past Hannah because she simply just enjoys it, Nick. Like, let's be honest. I mean, with Sam not necessarily being 100% fit at the start of the season, I think Hannah gets that little extra advantage where she can get some kind of dark arts in early before Sam comes back.
Yeah, it might just be a little bit too much to overcome by the end of the year. Although Sam will give it a run, because if you don't think that Sam's been bottling up a fair amount of dark arts over the last 16 months, I have other news for you. Just throw yourself back to when she absolutely demolished that dude that ran onto the pitch, NFL safety style. That was pretty special stuff. So, yeah, I would sneaky little call out for Sam there. The super sub, a very important role in any championship winning team. Who is the super sub within this group? There are so many options that could potentially have a huge impact.
Yeah, I'm going to go a bit off the cuff here, or kind of lateral thinking, because it's either Mara Alba for me if she stays around and she kind of builds into this squad in terms of the talent. The other one for me is Sam Kerr, because I think she's going to be drip fed back into the squad. And I don't know if you can, it's kind of a lateral way of thinking about it, but I don't think she's going to start many games for Chelsea right up front this season.
No. Yeah, I agree.
I think her first goal will be off the bench. So by that logic, I'm going to say Sam Kerr is going to be our best super sub, especially maybe for the first half of this season.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking in a different spot of the pitch, and that's around the midfield area. Don't forget about Micah Hamano. I know that Micah was not first choice at the end of last season, but I think if you're looking for a player to come in, give you great energy, help close down opposition defenders and make them very uncomfortable, and also provide goals and assists in a pinch, Micah Hamano is a incredibly talented player. So I'm gonna do a sneaky shout for Micah, who will probably be coming off the bench. We have reached the end, Ollie, of the predictions, but we cannot leave before we do a 3-word season prediction. What is your 3-word season prediction, please?
My 3-word season prediction for your delectation is clutch collective comebacks. By that, I mean some brilliant returnees coming in clutch when we really need them. And I think that includes Myra in the second half of the season. I think it includes Sam Kerr. I think it includes Lauren James. And just making sure that we can engineer it so that all these big hitters are right where we need them to be for the run-in. So we can execute run-in Chelsea just as Emma Hayes would have done.
A motherfucking man there. I just went with a simple one. It is time. It's time for this team to break that ceiling. It's time for this team to shut Barcelona up. It is time for this team to do something that is really hard to do, which is win the Champions League for the first time. And luckily, there are some players in the squad who have won the Champions League before for different teams. This is a real task. I do believe that it's going to be incredibly difficult. I don't believe that Chelsea will be given any preferential treatment in terms of draws or anything like that, because that is not the way that it works. And I do believe that Sonia is hurt from last year. I think she's hurt by the way the team played. I think she's hurt by her own decisions that she put in at the end of last season in the Champions League. This is a different Chelsea. I think the attitude is going to be different. I think the connectivity between the players will be different. And my hope is that this team is able to withstand a little bit of early season, maybe a little bit of early season disruption, injuries and all, betting in new players, all that sort of stuff, and put ourselves in position after the winter break to start really putting in 9 out of 10 performances, 8 out of 10 performance, 10 out of 10 performance, right? Really get into the spot where we're playing our best in April and May and closing the shop down. And so it is time. It's time for this team. We should have had a Champions League already. We're going to get one this year, and English teams are going to win these things back-to-back years, and Barcelona is going to be crying into their UEFA pile of money. So that's where we end this one, Ollie. Any final thoughts before we depart and get ready for Friday?
Yeah, on the same logic, I mean, wouldn't it be great as a Chelsea fan to say both sides of the club have won it all?
You're right. It would be pretty excellent. It'd be a real shame for the haters. It'd be a real tough moment for the haters. But then again, don't really care about them, do we? Look, I will always end these by saying, if you are able to get out to women's matches, I know the schedule sometimes conflicts and there's a lot of things going on in everyone's life, but getting out to Kings Meadow, getting out to Stamford Bridge on the occasions that they do play at Stamford Bridge, it's a wonderful, wonderful experience. I cannot emphasize enough how much fun it is to go out to these matches and watch this truly excellent team put in a hell of a shift and most likely an excellent performance that leads to a win. So if you don't have tickets for Friday, get them. If you don't have tickets to go see the team up at Kings Meadow, get them. If you haven't ever seen the team travel and play an away game, do that this year. Plenty of organizations out there that will help you get all settled and things like that. Chelsea are the best fans of the WSL by a mile. And so you'll have a community there with you. So while we're just kind of getting ramped up in the coverage on this season of the London is Blue podcast, there will be more to come on Monday for the actual match review of the Man City match. And then we will take that into the start of a very hectic and exciting women's football calendar this year. So thanks to everyone who stuck around for a little bit of an extendo pod here, but it's season preview, so we can do whatever the hell we want. And we will be back on Monday with another match review. So until then, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.